Chair done. Chair comfy. Man comfy in man chair.
Alright, so it's day 2. We have sanded, primed, and then we are resanding and rebondoing the sections that were too rough. That's pretty much it. So let's just get to work here. Oh, that's much better. That's nicely feathered. I'll tell you what, this section feels really, really good. The other sections, the sections that had deeper scratches that were lower down toward the puppy, are obviously worse off. This upper section feels real good. That's going to fill in real nice. You're not even going to notice that when that's done. There's simply too many rough spots, and I don't like that. I'm unhappy with that. First off, I'd like to apologize for the lighting. I know that you can't see very well. There's really not a whole hell of a lot I can do about that. We've gone ahead and done one side, and this stuff is incredibly fast drying. I mean, like 5-minute dry times. Just so you can see, this is the Rust-Oleum High Heat for Car Auto. It's rated up to 2,000 degrees. The reason we're using this is because it's kind of like a cheap man's powder coat. And when I say this dries quick, you can already see some of these spots drying and hardening out. This stuff is incredibly quick at drying. So your second coat can actively go on as your first coat is already drying, which is one of the things I really like about it. Here's the other arm, and that was that corner that was really, really, really bitten up by the dog. This is the one that was completely missing, so that's what it looks like after it's been completely folded in. All the Bondo has been done and it's been smoothed out. Still a couple little scratches. I could probably do better. You know, time is of the essence here, so rattle can with what little left we have of this primer on the edges. And I think that's just about got that can done. That's pretty watery at this point. We've got a couple of spots left on this that are going to need a little bit of touch-up, as you can see here. But other than that, this is kind of what the overall look is going to be when it's all done. And it's actually, I need to put that down. It's still sticky in one or two places. So we'll go and respray that tomorrow, let it fully cure, and then try again. This is the upper base for the chair. So here we can see our seat cushion. We've got our back, we have our front, we have removed all of our staples. The material now is ready to be pulled off. And it is held in by a couple of staples on the bottom here, and these little pieces of cloth. We're just going to cut them. And there's a small bar right here, which is used to tuck that material down in the middle of the cushion. We are not going to be using that bar. We're also not going to be sewing any piping into the material, as we don't need any of that. This is all trash. Now we're going to want to separate these two layers. There should be, usually these come in layers of foam. So we've got a side piece here, and then there's our upper layer here. I want to keep that. And this is going to get us down to the base of the chair. These are mainly to protect us from staples and things of that nature. So what you're going to want when you do this is a little bit of contact adhesive. And I just want to check and see, make sure all the rest of this foam is in here nice and secure. That is the base foam. Next, we're going to take our foam, lay our foam out, take your chair top, lay it foam side down, and take a knife or a marker and mark where you want to cut. And then we are going to use our handy dandy foam cutter here to cut out where we need our foam. All we want to do is get this piece stuck to this piece. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to trim it afterwards. There we go. Simply lay that flat on there and then put something heavy on it. Compresses while it's drying. We'll come back in a couple of minutes and check it out and cut off the excess. Roughly about 45 minutes to an hour to allow the foam to set. You can see I've got my back down here and my front up here. This material here will come over top of this wood and it'll protect the back of your legs. So you don't want to remove too much from the front because as your legs come down and compress, you want it to wrap over just a little bit. I'm going to try and trim this material to be just slightly longer than this gray foam. On the back, we're actually going to do a 45-degree wedge after it's cut flush. So I'll cut it flush here, and then I'll wedge it 45. So let's go ahead and do that first. Okay. And this is actually the piece that I'm going to use for the arms later. The back seat is going to sit up against this, and it's going to come over this edge, so we have to wedge this side. Doesn't have to be perfect because when the cloth goes over top of it, it's actually going to pull in all this material. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flush cut the sides. If I had done this in sections, as in two pieces of foam, a front and a back, or a side and a side, I wouldn't have this problem. I don't know if you can hear it. The glue is not sticking down in the center. A lot of people at this point will put like a buttonhole. There were actually strings on the last one holding it down. We'll take off probably about, let's just say 3 inches on a side, starting from the front and going all the way to the back. And the reason we want to do this is because if we don't do that, all this material is going to pull over when we wrap our cloth. We've gone ahead and got all new hardware. These are going to be the bolts that are holding on the lower connector for the arms. In this instance, I want this to never ever move again. So what do we use? Wood glue. I know a lot of you are going, wood glue? Yes. Yes, we are going to use wood glue. This never ever moves again. To make sure that the bolts never ever come out, we're using red Loctite. I hope you did it right the first time. Please don't screw up type deal. If you're using red Loctite, mental note, you've only got the one shot. I want to get this in place roughly, and then I'm going to use the bolts to line everything up. And you don't get a lot of Loctite, just a couple of drops. And I'm not worried about glue spillage or glue spread. Just want to make sure that these never ever ever move again. And we want to eliminate those squeaks. I've gone ahead and stripped them all down, and then I have contact glued them to the sides of the foam, and then I'll come and cut them out and then shape them afterwards, and then I'll wrap them with cloth, and then we will staple them down, and then we will reinstall them on the arms. Here's roughly what they look like. A nice charcoal color, got a little nick here on the side. All in all, they look, I wouldn't say they look great. They were kind of a rush. I managed to smooth out a lot of the nicks, which I caused myself, and it looks okay. I've gone ahead and shaved the foam down. I used contact spray. I put the foam on, I clamped them, and then when I was done, I took the electric shear and cut them. I angle cut them, so you'll notice there should be a slight angle inward just a few degrees inward cut, because when the material goes on, it's going to want to spread to the outsides. On the backs, you're going to want a slightly deeper angle. You'll want to cut that slightly deeper on the back. I don't know if you can see that there. There we go. Slightly deeper on the back. The angle is just a couple degrees further in on the nose, even though that's not really necessary. You can leave them kind of flush on the nose, but just to give a little room for that cloth to move, I wanted to cut them back a little bit. I went ahead and I V-cut the center of my foam, and then I poked 3 holes with some wood skewers. And what this is going to allow me to do is to reuse the bar from the last chair. I'm actually going to put this bar back down in here and allow it to hold the foam down. And I'm going to remove these little pieces of cloth, and I'm going to use buttonhole fabric. This is really, really strong stuff, even though it's very thin. So this should work out fairly nicely. Cut a small V notch in the skewer. And then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to tie it to this notch. And if this works out correctly, I should be able to pull the thread down through here now. And there we go. So I'm going to repeat that process for the other 2. I have attached the holding bar to the strings, and now we simply have to pull it through. And there we go. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get all 3 of these lines stapled together. Preferably in a situation where they can move. Nice and straight. There we go. We want to make sure that we get our bar centered as much as we can toward those holes, and then push it down and pull out the excess. Oh, pull in the wrong direction. Pull this way. Okay. And then you'll turn it back over this way, and that'll hold. And now we'll use this. Hey, you're in the way of the shot. There we go. So that's it. Now they are all permanently nice and taut. Now our holding bar is nice and tight and holding down the foam, and you can see now the foam is curved, whereas before it was flat. So
That's cool.
that'll get us a nice little seating area. And now we're going to go ahead and adhesive glue in our little piece here that we're missing, and then we'll do the rest of our shaping and on to the next step. This is the strip that I actually cut out of here. I shaved a little bit off the bottom, that way the bar doesn't get in the way of it. So a little bit of contact glue, and then press it in on all the corners. Okay, and that's probably going to take about 10 minutes to set up, and once it does, that'll be firm. And it's okay if there's a gap here. There's no problems with that. You won't even feel that once the cloth is on here and all this compresses. It'll all come up to the same height. I'm just laying out my fabric, and then I want to pull the fabric over the sides and make sure that I can reach at least the middle. Then I measure from the center of the piece to the outside, and it's about 4 inches here. Then I mark from 4 inches to the outside, and I make a mark. I repeat the same thing on the far corner, and then I just kind of eyeball how much material I need on each end to cover. And then I went ahead and I've made a pattern. Now I'm going to cut it out, I'm going to flip it over, I'm going to mark it again, and I'm going to do it that way. I have 2 of them. And the fabric does not have to look pretty, because this is all going to be hidden. So there's my first piece, and now I'm just going to check it again real quick just to make sure that it is going to fit. Now that I have my arm fabric ready to go, I'm going to do the chair section. So you can see that I have gone ahead and I've shaved down the front of the chair and the foam, and it's a little easier to work with. more than enough on the sides. So that's pretty much perfect right there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to spray and set the arms first. Okay, so now we have our cloth cut. We have our arms glued and formed. So everything looks pretty good here, so we're ready to go ahead and attach. I'm going to use my contact glue, make sure I've got the right side. Go ahead and lay that down in the middle. Pull and bring the nose down. And then we're going to go ahead and staple one on either side. Okay. Now we're simply going to repeat the process for the bottom. Okay, and I want to turn it over real quick and just give it a good rub. There we go. Alright. Now we don't have to be perfect on the sides, like I said, okay, but you want to start from the middle and then work your way to the edges, because any extra material you can always pull out. And this is no stretch material, so it's kind of hard to work with. Alright, so that's the right side done. See how I pulled that one too hard? And now it's got a little bump. Do you feel that? Well, now I've got to pull that staple up. So after pulling those staples out real quick, I got the material to come back up to normal. Yeah, if I over tighten it, it'll crunch back down. So for right now, I just want to be gentle with it. Just finger tight. See, I got that split. See how far up that staple came compared to where it was? But look, that bump is gone now.
Better.
Yeah, much better. That looks really damn good.
Yeah.
Looks great. And I haven't decided how I'm going to do that, so let's just do like that. And one more here. Okay. And for the front, I did a triangle fold, so let's do something fairly similar. Alright, and that's it. That's what it's going to look like. And now we just peel these back and we cut out all the excess and we expose the bottom. And there we go. And that will attach down just like that. And that'll be on the chair. Not too shabby. And now I'm going to do the other one. Hopefully it'll look just as good. Maybe not with that little staple mark in it. Maybe it'll look better. Hopefully it'll look better. It will look better! Do one more this way just to make sure I get an extra good hold. Okay. And there is my top. And I wanted this front to be loose. That way it's got a little bit of flex to it. So now we just cut off our excess. And there we are. There's our chair seat. Let's go put it on.
Cool.
I was going to go ahead and do a buttonhole stitch on this hole, and then I decided just not to, because let's face it, we've been working on this chair for almost 4 days now, and it's kind of becoming a pain in the butt. Come on, come on, you're almost there. There we go. Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And now you can come back and you can.
That's gonna be covered up by the little handle anyway.
Okay, so let's see if we can't line this up. bit over because I just want to check the level of the chair. That feels really good. That's nice and comfy. Before, the armrests were so flat and low that I couldn't even get my arms on them, and now they're actually tall enough that I can put my arms on them. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna do a cover for the top to make it match. It came out pretty well. I'm happy.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And now onto the 626 seat, which is hiding under that big piece of foam.
Yeah.
So we'll get started on that today, probably.
There's one item that I'm missing though. I need upholstery cardboard. Well, it makes all your transferring of patterns like considerably easier.
So we could have templates. So if anybody ever wants to do their own seats, we could just send them templates, cardboard templates.
Exactly.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.